Hello, welcome back to Mark's House and Garden UK, and as you can see I'm not in my garden at the moment because I'm visiting my sister-in-law Tracy, where there is a problem with a yew tree. And this is the yew tree in question down here. It's one of four in this lovely formal arrangement in their garden. The problem with this is it's stunted. It's not growing very well, and also it's going brown, whereas this one, which was planted at exactly the same time, is lovely and dark green and healthy looking. That one is also about a foot taller than the other one. These have been in the ground for about 2 years, so clearly there's a problem with this yew tree, and I think I know what it is. So I've repositioned the camera so that hopefully you can see the issue that I can see. Hopefully you can see that there is a slope running down to my right, so all the water that lands on this lawn in the winter time is running down here onto that yew tree. The other three are at the top of the slope. Yew trees do not like to sit in damp or wet soil. Yew trees are very low maintenance plants and they're very easy to look after. They can tolerate periods of drought and they can tolerate short periods of being wet, but they do not like to be sat in wet soil. So ideally, when you plant a yew tree, you should plant it on an elevated mound. That helps the drainage, and also you should enhance the drainage in the soil that you plant it into. Let's go and take a closer look at the yew tree with the problem. And here it is right here. And hopefully you can see that all the leaves on the extremities of this plant are going brown. There are still some green elements, so it's not dead yet, but if you compare that to the other two, at the extremes of this shot, they're dark green and healthy. This is looking very sad indeed. I've got several options. I could dig it up and relocate it to the top of the hill, but the problem with that is it would upset the symmetry of this lovely formal garden arrangement, and I don't want to do that. It's been in the ground a couple of years, so it will have some established roots. I don't really want to disturb those established roots, but ideally I would like it to be on a mound. And ideally, I would love some way of dealing with this water runoff that's coming down and ending up around the roots of this plant. So I'm going to do something which is a bit of an experiment, but logic says to me it's going to work. Let me explain what I'm going to do. So the water is flowing down this hill and it's ending up here at the roots of this tree. You can tell it's damp here because the grass here is mainly moss. That's another indication that it's damp. So what I intend doing is digging a trench like a horseshoe shape around this side of the plant, which means that the runoff will go into that trench and around the base of this plant. And then on the other side, I'm going to dig a hole, and it's going to have its own little soak away, this plant. And that hole is going to have gravel in the bottom with some weed fabric on top. So any excess water in this soil will drain into that hole. Then the roots will dry out, they will get the oxygen in the soil that they need, and this plant will come back to life. A couple of interesting facts about these yews. A yew tree is not considered mature until it's 900 years old. So that tells you something about how tough and hardy and resilient these are. So I don't worry about this. I think once we get the drainage right, it's going to come back to life. Another great thing about yews is they will grow back from old wood. Conifers, if you cut into old wood, they won't grow back, but a yew tree will grow back from very, very old wood. You only have to leave it for a few months and you'll see little green shoots. A point of warning with a yew tree. Now there's a dog just here to my left. I don't know if you can see Tess. Come in, Tess, come on. Yew trees are poisonous. They're poisonous to humans and animals. All parts of that tree are poisonous and they can be fatal to dogs, particularly the berries. So you've got to be very careful when you're pruning these that dog doesn't eat any of the prunings. So there we go, a wonderful tree. It just needs a little bit of assistance. So what I'm going to do next is get my spade, dig this small trench, which will have the effect of making this sit on a mound. That trench I'm going to fill with gravel so that the runoff comes round and drops into a hole down there. I'll do that in fast forward so that you can see what I'm doing. So hopefully you can see there that you've got this ring around the plant, which essentially makes it on a mound. The water, when it runs down the hill, will go into that ring and then soak away into this deep hole, maybe about a foot to 18 inches deep. I want to demonstrate it using this hose pipe, so I'm going to leave the hose pipe running on here. Let's put it onto a spray, and you will see, if I bring the camera in a little bit closer, that water running round. So it definitely works. The water running off will go into that little trench, into this little soakaway. Now obviously I can't leave an open trench there. I need to disguise it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill that with some gravel that I've brought along, and I'm going to fill the bottom of this hole with the same gravel and put some weed fabric on top before I put the soil back on top of here. I've got the turf from here, so that can go back on top. So let's get some gravel in to fill this little trench to disguise it. And the final piece of the jigsaw is to get some gravel in here, and that will help the excess water to soak away, and it will stop that from becoming full of soil. Now the final piece of the jigsaw before I reapply some soil and some turf is just a little bit of weed fabric. It's to act as a kind of membrane to stop the soil infiltrating into the gravel. I want all those spaces between those pieces of gravel so that the water can go there as it slowly drains away. So by protecting the top of it with this piece of weed fabric, I can now put some soil on. That soil can't get through to the gravel below. And by the way, when I'm handling this soil, it's got lumps of clay in it. So again, that's another problem here. The clay is probably stopping the drainage, but this will definitely help. Logic suggests it will work. It's like a miniature French drain. The water can't get to the base of that plant anymore. It can only come round the side, and it can only seep down into that gravel. Right, I've got the piece of turf here, so we should be able to do an invisible mend now. Plonk that on top like that. It needs a bit more soil in first, so I'll just take that back out again. I'll put more soil in. Again, the soil is going on the membrane, it's not going on the gravel. The gravel is protected by the membrane. So just to recap, if you've got a yew plant that's turning brown, like this one, it's probably because it's getting too much water. They don't like to sit in water. They can sit in damp soil for short periods of time, and they're very tolerant to drought. In fact, they prefer dry soil. They're very good in pots, actually. You can put them in pots and they will survive, but clearly you might have the opposite problem if you put your yew plant in a pot. Right, hello Tess, my sister-in-law's dog here, Tess. That grass will mesh back in, and the gravel will eventually be covered by the grass. It will grow into it, but in the meantime, any water or excess water that flows down this hill will go into that little sump first. Hope you've enjoyed that. Yew Tree Rescue, Yew Tree Care. I'll see you soon for some more yew rescue adventures. Bye for now.